Hey everybody, this is Jesse Krieger, founder of Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press, and I'm joined today by Arthur Magoulianiti, the author of The Extraordinary Man. Arthur, how you doing today?
I'm good, Jesse. Very well, thanks. Hello, everybody.
Thanks for taking the time and excited to dive into this with you. You know, The Extraordinary Man just came out. Subtitle is Reconnect Your Masculine Power to Achieve Purpose, Freedom, and Wealth. And perhaps you could just share a little bit about, the motivation behind writing this book. What was your why or your calling to write a book called The Extraordinary Man? And well, let's start there, and then we can dive in
Okay,
deeper.
excellent, excellent. So, Jesse, I've been involved in personal development for many years, and in the last few years, I've really been focusing on the side, on the masculine side, development and personal development for men. And so, I've been going through and working in men's groups and men's trainings. And it's dawned on me that there are so many men out there that are suffering at the moment, and suffering in silence. And so one thing is to realize this from working with a lot of men. The other thing is just to look in our society and look at the stats that are showing up, and they're really, really scary. We are looking at higher suicide rates of middle-aged white men, and there's a lot of links that we can start to see between how we have been brought up as men in the world, and how, as middle-aged men, we are starting to fall over, to get lost, to disconnect from what's really right and true for us as men, as human beings. And we also see a lot of this in the press today, with many men acting out. We see it all the time. A lot of men are responsible for a lot of bad stuff. And so my whole intention with the book was, how do we go from the status quo, which is what is the average, what is the expected norm, which obviously isn't working well for most guys, to how can we raise our game so that we can actually step away from the masses where it isn't working, find some answers for ourselves so we can raise our game and have a better, more enjoyable life, a more fulfilling life, one that makes sense to us.
I love that, and thank you. There is an underreported trend, I would say, of men suffering, perhaps even middle-aged white men in particular, but men across the board. And it doesn't get that much press. There's the whole Me Too movement and some sort of anti-masculinity movements, however they're defined. But in The Extraordinary Man, you take a stand for men being their best self and excelling in all of the different key areas of life, the core ones: health, wealth, relationships, but also things like taking radical responsibility and modeling masculinity. And since those are some of the opening chapters, maybe you could talk a little bit about modeling the kind of masculinity that you have in mind and taking responsibility for one's life and outcomes.
Yeah, and there's two parts to the responsibility. I think the first part is, if you look historically, men have created a lot of, how can I say it, bad stuff. We've been responsible for, for arrogance, for dominance, for control and power. And I'm not saying all men, okay? And I'm not saying this is our nature or our culture, but a lot of men have been in positions that have abused their power. And so we have to take responsibility for what's gone before us. And so the whole Me Too movement, there's a lot of stuff there that really stands true. However, there's also the extremes of this, where we have this so-called competition that it's the woman is right and the man is wrong, or vice versa. In other words, the man was right and the woman were wrong, and now we've got to reverse the tables. But that isn't going to fix the situation. Yeah. So for me, from my opinion, what we want to do is take responsibility for what we've created and fix that. At the same time, take responsibility for ourselves. There's a lot of men that are not taking responsibility for themselves to improve the situation, and are actually the victims of taking the victim mentality and saying, well, because life has changed, because society, because economy, because everything else, I'm left here. We have to take personal responsibility to step up, to become the man that we all know we can be. I like to think we all recognize there's a gap between where we are and where we could be. And many of us don't know how to cross that gap. And so a lot of people get stuck. Modeling masculinity, and this is an interesting one because, as I said, as I referred to before, we haven't always had the best examples to model. And yet, even our own fathers may have not been the perfect model because of their history, of the tragedies, of the difficulties that they encountered in their life. They showed up in a particular way that may not have been the best for us. That being said, it's up to us now to address that. We can't keep saying, well, my father was like that, and this is why I am like this. In order for us to step up into being good, decent, heart-centered men that we can be, that's what's going to make the difference for all of us. Working hand in hand with, obviously, women, but it's not a either or, it's a together. And really doing the work that we need to do inside of us so that we can be the best version of ourselves.
I love that. And that's a great call to arms, call to action for men to step up and start to close that gap between where we see ourselves and where we are objectively right now and where we want to be, and know that we can go by virtue of our potential. So maybe you could highlight one of the other key areas that men should focus on in order to close that gap and, really achieve their full potential while taking responsibility for creating the kind of life that they want to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, the book is full of ideas and virtues. We talk about 12 different ones, but starting with the one that we know so well, health. Yeah. Too many men let their health slide over the years as they get older. Okay. And that doesn't need to be the case. We have to focus on our well-being, on our health, to have the energy to be able to show up in an extraordinary way. Now, I'm not saying doing crazy stuff and to the nth degree. I'm just saying really look after yourself in all the ways that we can. Getting enough sleep, eating properly, exercising properly, doing the things that are going to put us ahead of the game. So we have the energy, we have the good feelings that working out gives us, and that will translate into everything we do. We know so well that if you are working on your business and you're not exercising, you're gonna pay the price. But if you're exercising and you're producing results in one area of life, like health, your business is going to automatically benefit from that, as will your relationships. And there's a whole section in there about testosterone and how we are being negatively affected by the environment. And the more our testosterone drops off, that's how we become less focused. We become more lethargic. And that also plays a part. And so educating ourselves is number one. And I think maybe this whole book is about educating ourselves. What can we do? And how will that benefit our life? And so the health is one big area. It's a no-brainer, but we really have to look at it again in a bit of greater detail to reassess, what am I doing, what should I be doing, and how can I move forward. The other thing is presence, showing up. Everyone is stuck to their phone. We have the phone and everyone's there. 2 minutes, you go to the bathroom, you're in the car, you stop at the traffic lights, everyone's looking at their phones. We are becoming disengaged. We have the most social apps ever and the less quality friends than ever. We've got more social apps than friends. And so actually becoming present in our lives instead of distracted. Too many men are distracting themselves because of the pain they feel, because they're not clear on their mission. They are distracting themselves because they want to fill this hole that they're feeling. And so they'll distract themselves with their phones, with games, with gambling, with addictions like sex and drugs and all of that, because they are feeling this void and they've got no idea how to sort it out. But being present in life, being present with our partners, our children, our business partners, just being present to ourselves is probably the biggest skill we need in this age of distraction. And so just those two alone will change your life. And we could talk about the other 10 as well.
No, that's a great introduction and very important topic in today's day and age. So I want to thank you and congratulate you on writing The Extraordinary Man. Came out of the gate #1 hot new release in gender studies and men's studies. And I think that's the exact audience that we're intending to reach, is men looking for ways to develop themselves personally, professionally, within relationships and health-wise. So all that and more you can find in The Extraordinary Man. And thank you very much, Arthur. And we'll see you all in a future video.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you all. Take care.